Hi everyone, my name is Arunodaya from W3 CodePad, and in this video I'll tell you about model, form and database. In this particular video, I'll tell you how to configure the database and how to create model, create form and how to store data in your database table. As you see in this particular screen, this is a simple HTML form. So how to create this form by using Laravel and what are the things you have to take care of when you are creating this form. Suppose for example, I am writing test title. I am submitting this form. It is validating, that means it is asking you to enter the data in the body form. Suppose both the fields are not filled, so it is validating, it is asking you to enter the data. So when I am enter the data, this is a test title, body test, like this. If you want to write something like this, so when you're submitting this thing, it is storing the data and it is redirecting to the home. If you go to the database MySQL server and if you see the table, articles table, this is the table I have used in this particular example. If you browse it and the last one you see, this is the record I have entered just now using model, form and data. Let's try to create this particular example. In Laravel, form validation and database handling, how to do this. So first of all, what we'll do is connect to the database server. So how to connect to the database server in Laravel? Laravel, we have two files, .env file, where you have to specify all database information. Database information means database server IP address and the username and password of the database and database name. All the information you have to store in .env file. So I'll show you this .env file, and there is another file called database.php file. Here in this file you have to define the desired database drivers. What does it mean? Means we want to use different type of drivers, for example MySQL or MS SQL or any other database. If you want to use Oracle, you have to define all the drivers here in database.php file. So both this file .env file and database.php file are very important. We must define all the credentials here in these two files. So after this, we have to understand what is the model. Basically Laravel is a MVC framework. So one of the entities of the MVC is model. So what is actually model? Model is basically, it is a class file and that represents one table in your database. For example, you have a database table in your database server that is called articles, just like this. If you these articles, if you have, then you have to create one class file called article.php file, and here the name of the model is article. So one nomenclature you have to remember, that means the Laravel, if the database table is articles, this is a plural, then the model should be article, the singular one. So this nomenclature you have to follow. First of all, we'll do one thing, we'll create one model to manipulate the articles. So how to create the model? To create the model, we have to use one artisan command. So that artisan command is php artisan make. That means if you want to create model and article, the name of the model, it will create an article.php file. So this is the first one. The second thing is, in Laravel there is a concept called migration. So what is migration actually? Migration means if you want to create or alter a database table, then you have to use the migration. So it is best way to manage your database tables is the migration files. So migrations, how to create migrations? To create migration, you can use this command php artisan make model and -m. M stands for migration. So it will create the migration as well as the model. So next is here you have to write the model name also. I have left the model name here. So make model and article -m. Okay. So next is how to run this migration. So this run this migration means you have to write php artisan migrate : refresh. So whatever migrations they are there, it will it will run the migrations. So migration is basically, it is a class file by which we can manipulate or manage your database table physically in your database. So do not have to go to the database server physically. Directly by using programmatically we can manage our database. So that is migration. So in this particular video, I will try to give you a very good understanding of the model, migration, form, validation and database. This is the steps we have to follow to manipulate the database. So this process, if you learn this process, you can easily manipulate your database. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code. For database configuration, as I told you, there is a .env file. This file is present in a folder. So if you see this .env file, this particular section, in this particular section, the database information and credentials are there. You have to define the database credential. I want to use MySQL server, and the database server is local server. That's why this is the local server IP address. And here you have to define also the name of the database. Here Laravel, and this is my database. This is the username of the database, and password of the database is blank right now in my case. So if you see this my MySQL server, I have this database with me. This is the database, and this database is basically you have to define here in this particular section. So this is the first step. The second step is, if you go to the database and in this database folder, open database.php in configuration folder. Inside the configuration folder, there is a file called database. So here in the line number 646, if you see, these are the drivers. This is my MySQL driver. Here I have defined my MySQL driver. Similar to the MySQL driver, by default, there is a PostgreSQL, the SQL server. So these are the drivers we have already defined in the database. So you do not have to change anything here in the database.php file. But one thing you see in this particular line number 18, this particular line number 18 is saying that my database driver I am using is MySQL. Database DB connection is MySQL. So that's mean I am using this driver. This is my driver I am using. Okay. If you want to change to Postgres or something SQLite, so you have to write this here in the connection. Okay. So this is one of the important thing you have to remember. So in my case, I am using MySQL server. So I do not have to change anything. By default, Laravel comes with MySQL driver. Okay. So these two files is very, very important. And after the configuration, if you start the server, we can see whether it is working or not. So just go to, this is PHP artisan serve. Now the server is basically starting. I am starting the Laravel server. The server is started, and if you go to the localhost and this, now it is okay. Everything is fine. The server is working. Now what I have to do is I have to create the model. So here what I want to do is, as I told you, I have to create one article model. PHP artisan make model article. So I do not want to create only the article. I have to create the article as well as the migration and a controller. So if you see here in the directory, before running this particular command, and this is the model folder. Inside your F folder, there is a model folder. This is my model folder. Here there is only one model, user.php. I do not have any other model right now. So if you go to this particular HTTP and the controller, you see there is only one controller.php. There is no other controller. So this particular command will create the article model, controller and migration. The migration is basically present in your database folder. In this database folder, there is a folder called migration, and here say there is some migrations. but I do not have the article migration. There is user migration, password migration, and failed job migration, and personal assets migrations are there. These are the files are there, but I do not have this article migration. So you just create this article and just run this particular statement. Now it is creating the migration first. As you see, this is a migration it is creating, and in the same time it will create the controller and model. After creation of this file, we'll work on the, I'll show you the migration file. We'll check the next video, that is part number 2, where I have created migrations, controller, validation, forms. So to complete this video, please check out part number 2.